Welcome back to an emergency Kang Gang pod where we are here to discuss the hottest news in the world right now. Shams Charania put out into the world saying the Sacramento Kings are expected to open up talks to potentially deal all-star De'Aaron Fox ahead of February 6th deadline. There will be plenty of suitors, but it's believed that Fox has a target destination in mind ahead of the 2026 free agency. That news shocked the world.
Shocked.
When you first saw that, Johnny, what went through your mind?
I was surprised just at the timing of it, just because our team has been playing so good. But I also wasn't surprised just because of all the talk that De'Aaron Fox has been, in the news as far as is he going to re-sign? Obviously, there was trade rumors earlier in the season as well. So I wasn't completely shocked at the situation itself, more so just the timing of it coming out right now. You would think the winning streak and how well we've been playing would quiet some of that noise. So yeah, I think I was just shocked at the timing of everything, of how it's just coming out right now. My personal opinion is I would be very surprised if Fox is moved at the deadline. I think this is a chess move from our front office, from Monty McNair to De'Aaron's, agents, his representatives. Obviously, we know Rich Paul is very vocal as far as leaking stuff to the media, causing kind of a flurry with teams, the front office, and the media. So this looks to be a chess move from Monty McNair saying, okay, you want to, have Fox rumble about going to different teams, having interest in different teams, putting pressure on the front office. Let's start a bidding war. Let's start and shop them around. I don't know how serious the talks are, but yeah, the fact that it's happening right now after our team's been rolling is just a little bit of a shock. And it's obviously going to be a talk of discussion up until February 6th, up until the trade deadline. I think this is going to be the number one thing on the Kings fans' mind, which is kind of a shame because of how well we've been playing. You would think all the momentum and all the thoughts would be positive, but I feel like there's going to be a little bit of a divide up until the trade deadline on some Kings fans wanting to keep Fox, some wanting to move him, which sucks because you want, your team to be in good light. You want them to be in good spirits. You don't want this to spoil into the locker room. But this NBA drama happens, so it's going to be fun. From now on then, it's going to be fun.
So right when things took a turn with the firing of Mike Brown, Doug Christie comes in, and then we go on. I think we're 11-3.
Yeah.
With in the Doug Christie era, so we are, or 11-4. I forget which one, but
11-4, I believe.
Yeah. So when Doug Christie arrives, he hushes the noise, right? Mm-hmm. There is nothing really to be said except positive things about the Kings, really. And then now, I think it all circles back to when Rich Paul with Clutch Sports decides to leak some information about a little De'Aaron Fox frenzy going on, and now here it comes into today,
yep.
Where Shams reports it, and then apparently a lot of the Sacramento media was all over this earlier today. I was seeing some stuff from Damian Barling earlier this morning, too. James Ham.
Yeah.
It seemed like there was something going on, and then it looks like Sacramento actually, our media team got there before the national media.
Right.
But yeah, according to James Ham, De'Aaron Fox's preferred landing spot is the San Antonio Spurs if a trade were to happen. And then also Damian Barling also said that De'Aaron Fox had a positive conversation with the Kings front office today as well. Mm-hmm. And so when you hear that, that means that there was obviously discussion between the two.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're hearing a potential landing spot for him already is, how does that make you feel? Right? After hearing the news, and then, a landing spot that De'Aaron would like to.
So it's a lot at once, right? Which is making me kind of think that this is a move from his agency, from his agent team, right? And he's from Texas, right? He's from Katy, Texas. I'm not sure if that's closer to Houston or San Antonio. Regardless, he's born and raised in Texas. So, it would make sense for them to leak something like that, right? Because then fans will be thinking like, oh, he wants to go back home. The Spurs obviously have a great young core. But it's just so much at once that it makes me feel like it's a little bit fabricated, because when have we ever heard De'Aaron Fox be in the media like this before? He's very not outspoken when it comes to stuff like this. And for some reason, as soon as he signed with Clutch Sports, as soon as Rich Paul became more involved with him and his contract and everything like that, these rumors start coming out now, which is very strange, and it's just odd timing, in my opinion. But the fact that it's so much coming at once makes me feel like it's coming from the agency and his agents versus Fox himself, which kind of makes me feel a little bit better, because it's not Fox having distaste towards the Kings, in my opinion. I think it's more of the agents are playing chess with the Kings front office.
No, I think that's 100% true, because if you just look at who's signed to Clutch Sports, like Zach LaVine, for example, Anthony Davis, like those guys, we've all known what's happened with Anthony Davis when he was with New Orleans, how he got his way. Yeah. And that was mainly a agency move right there. I don't know how it was forced.
He forced his way out of New Orleans.
And like, there's been Zach LaVine trade talks for years, and I think a lot of it has to do with Rich Paul, and I think Rich Paul has such an influence on the NBA and the executives, where he has a pulse, he can make things happen with the words that he says, and he likes to put pressure because obviously all he wants is the best for his players. Mm-hmm. And when he's seeing something that may not be the most marketable for the players and this and that, that's where you start to hear these things.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'll start with LeBron James, right? That's
for sure.
That's Rich Paul's childhood friend. That's how Rich Paul got his start. And he kind of instilled player empowerment in this league, right? Where a player can be vocal about where he wants to go. I think that's Rich Paul's whole mantra. And I don't think it's a coincidence that De'Aaron Fox signs with him, and now we see him in the media more than ever. This is what Rich Paul wants. This is what an agency wants. They want a player talked about. They want pressure on the front office. So it only makes sense. And I think Monte McNair is doing, honestly, a good thing by saying, hey, we're not backing down. You want to put these rumors out there? We'll put the same rumors out there. And I don't think he wants to trade Fox. I'd be shocked if Fox gets moved before February 6th. But it's a shame that, it's coming at a time when our team is rolling. And it just shows that NBA is a business. And you want to, especially as an agent, you want to market your player as much as possible. You want them talked about as much as possible. And you want to kind of cause a stir and force the front office's hand. But it just sucks. It's coming at the expense of everyone else. And we just hope that this doesn't trickle into the locker room, and that Doug keeps the players focused and we keep winning games.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing, because what we have right now, it's special with obviously how we're loving how Doug is leading us right now. And the outside noise, like, professionals are really good about, blocking it out. But with something as big as this, when it's the star player, the cornerstone piece, the homegrown kid, 8 years with the team, that's where it could cause, you just don't want it to get out of hand, especially this close to a deadline. Like, you don't want any rash decisions to be made, because trading your superstar, you have to get the trade nearly perfect, or else it could set you back years. Like, there's so many trades that's happened in the past that we've seen with superstars where it had to be right in order for them to be successful moving forward.
Right. And very rarely does the team who doesn't get the best player in the deal work out, right? Usually the team who gets the best player gets the better end of the deal, right? So yeah, you said it best. And Fox is our most valuable trade asset for sure. So if a move does happen, you want to make sure we're set up for success after it does.
No, for sure. So speaking about De'Aaron, the Kings have given him every reason to ask out, with all of the instability, all of the coaching changes throughout the years, all of the poor draft selections, choosing a lot in recent years, choosing a lot of guards when, he, in his eyes, he's the guard of the team. We've done so many things and just haven't won in many, many years. And then when we do win, we fire the coach that he was very vocal about how much he loved. We've done so many things for De'Aaron to want to ask out. Mm-hmm. But the thing that we want to make very, very clear is that he did not ask out.
Right.
The big thing that happened is just that we've made it public that we are here to, our front office is here to listen to these offers. And now that, that's why we're here to talk about. We have the biggest suitor, San Antonio, where if we were to trade De'Aaron to San Antonio, that would not be, you're not going to get any win now players to help our current roster.
No.
That would be a rebuilding thing. And that goes back to our current roster with when Domantas Sabonis signed here. The reason why he came here was for De'Aaron Fox. Malik Monk, best friend. Why did he come here? De'Aaron Fox. Why did he take less money and sign an extension with us? Because of De'Aaron. And then DeMar DeRozan, one of our biggest free agency signings ever, signed to this team because of De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah.
So with that being said, like having De'Aaron Fox being the reason why your team is finally breaking through from the playoff drought and then potentially trading him, it's just unfortunate that we're at this point right now. But like we said, like nothing, like we don't know if it's actually going to happen.
Right.
And I wouldn't put my money on a trade not happening at the deadline. My biggest bet is if he were to get traded, it would be in the offseason, because then a lot more teams come into play where they finish out this current season, and then they could reevaluate where they really are and say, okay, things didn't work out. De'Aaron is the guy that would push us forward, And obviously we want the best for De'Aaron. He's done so much for us. I mean, we love the guy more than anything, but obviously it's a business, and the one thing that could happen is during this stretch of 9 days before the deadline, an offer could go out to our front office where we cannot, where we might not be able to say no. Like it might be so good where we might have to do it. But I mean, that's obviously not for us to decide. That's for Monty McNair and for our whole front office to decide where they want to see our franchise going forward. But we'll see. And
I think so obviously it was a small sample size, but we've seen our team play really good without De'Aaron out there. And obviously, like you said, it's not going to be an apples to apples. If we move De'Aaron, we're going to be the same team. Obviously, we're going to lose a little bit of talent, right? A lot of talent, right? Depending on what we get back.
An immense amount of talent.
Immense amount of talent, for sure. But I think our front office just needs to look at themselves in the mirror and think, how urgently do we need to make this move? Does it need to be right now in the middle of the season, mess up the team's chemistry, mess up, the locker room chemistry too? Or can it wait in the offseason? Obviously, barring any catastrophic injury to De'Aaron, his value will relatively remain the same going into the offseason, right? So our front office needs to look in the mirror and say, hey, do we need to make this move right now? Or can it wait in the offseason to kind of see how this roster shakes up, how we play after the All-Star break, which is why I think this is more of a social media frenzy or a social media chess move by Monty McNair than an actual realistic trade, kind of urgent trade kind of move that he's going to make.
That's what I'm hoping for, because I'm still standing strong on this current roster. I think we could trade different potential draft picks or bench pieces to better our roster with De'Aaron. And I think there's still time. Like, we're not like in panic mode yet as a franchise with De'Aaron's situation, because he doesn't have to re-sign until 2026. So that's end of this season and a full next season. So we could play it out if we wanted to. Worst case scenario obviously would be is if De'Aaron walks in free agency for nothing. Then that is the worst case scenario. So from a business perspective, you would have to do what Monty's doing and like just listen to what's out there, So that's why I don't see it as a concern as of right now. I think this probably makes Monty feel a little bit more comfortable with the next coming years with, okay, say De'Aaron, like we know for sure he's not going to resign here. Here are my options to better the team.
The trade market opens up too, right? Obviously there's a limited amount of players available during the season, where in the offseason teams are looking to make more drastic moves, more young stars become available, and you just have more options. So I'll say it again, I'd be shocked if a trade actually does happen before the February 6th deadline. I'd be really, quite frankly, disappointed. Not only losing Fox, but just messing up the chemistry of this season. I understand the NBA is a business, but to trade Fox at this point in the season would be an absolute failure to this team, and an absolute gut crusher to the fans, to the people in that locker room. Now, trading Fox in the offseason, that's a completely different argument. That's a completely different take. And I'd be willing to listen to arguments, right? I'm kind of on the fence on, whether, but it's kind of, you got to see how this season plays out before you make a judgment call, but before you make a decision on whether you want to keep Fox. But to have him, traded before this deadline would be a gut crusher to fans, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I think with the deadline approaching, I still think we go for a wing player that could benefit Fox, and I think we just keep going this season. Things are turning around. We're finally playing good again this season. So this is the time where you strike to get De'Aaron more help, because the last thing you want is the front office to fail De'Aaron
for sure
when he's been begging for help.
Yeah,
and they've done a decent job. Yeah, they've done a decent job with DeMar DeRozan and Malik and numerous others, but we all know what the team is lacking, and De'Aaron has been vocal about it, trying to get the front office to make those moves, and that's what we should be focusing on rather than a De'Aaron move for this free agency. For this trade deadline.
For sure.
But like how we both think that a trade will not happen this trade deadline, Rich Paul has said that in quotes, Rich Paul said that it would be wise for the Kings to trade De'Aaron Fox now. So when you hear that, obviously that's troubling because, our enemy, Rich Paul, is just always, he comes in when you least expect him and boom, we just don't want him to get exactly what he wants as of right now,
For sure.
So,
but that's a classic move of an agent trying to get his way, right? And I think it takes a mature front office, an experienced front office, which Monty McNair and Wes Wilcox have years, right? Running a team, being in the NBA kind of in those NBA roles, so we don't have to give in to that urgency. We understand Fox is under contract for the rest of the year, next year as well. So we don't have to give in, and I hope we don't. I really hope we don't.
I think De'Aaron, like we said earlier, like De'Aaron has not asked out. I think De'Aaron he's a simple guy. He just wants to win.
Yeah.
So I think Monty, Wes Wilcox, and the rest of the front office, they just need to better the current roster and push for playoffs this season, and then try and do even further the next season.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we won't have to trade De'Aaron and we could just re-sign him. Obviously, that's a fairy tale dream, but who knows? Maybe the writing on the wall is that De'Aaron Fox will not be with Sacramento for his whole entire career, which is very, very possible.
It's very possible. In the NBA too, it's very rare that someone plays with one team their whole career. And put Rich Paul to the side. We know De'Aaron loves the city. He made a shoe based off a local Sacramento eatery. Like, that is wild to think about. He loves the city. He loves his fan base. He's been vocal about how he wants to be here. He wants to win here. So put agents aside, and you understand as a person, De'Aaron Fox loves the city. And I think the fans love him too, right? That love is mutual. So until I hear him speak out, until I hear him go in the media, go into cameras and say, hey, these rumors are true, I want out of Sacramento, I'm going to be a little bit skeptical of what his agents put out in the media.
Yeah, until the point where De'Aaron asks out, that's when you know. But, he's been so loyal to us. He's done so much where, we owe what's in his best interest at the end of the day, I think. Obviously, the team, we need to do what's right as a team going forward. So if we do trade De'Aaron, you got to look into the future with who, you have to really pay attention to those draft classes and make sure those picks land perfectly. Because for example, with the Paul George trade from the Thunder to the Clippers, the Thunder did that trade perfectly because they got their new cornerstone, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they got numerous draft picks that built around him. We would need to do something similar where you can't let those draft picks not pan out.
Yeah.
Or have them fall to where it's out of your control with oh, that pick is owed to this team and so on.
Yeah.
So that could definitely set us back. But just thinking about San Antonio, I keep hearing, Stephon Castle, I hear Devin Vassell, I hear, obviously, you have to give up tons of picks for De'Aaron Fox. So, but
yeah,
no trade right now would be a win now move,
No,
so it's
no, it completely would change the trajectory of our team. We become, we would obviously, lower expectations and become more of a, not a rebuild, but we would definitely not be as much of a contender as we are now, for sure.
We would be in a Minnesota Timberwolves situation where you trade away your best player and it obviously affects the chemistry, and you were going this way and now you're kind of plateauing. That's obviously what we don't want either. But obviously we just want the best for De'Aaron. That guy, he's been one of the greatest Kings players in history, top 3. He's just been a lot say best to ever rock a Kings jersey.
For sure.
He's done a lot for us. we know that the teams that are interested in De'Aaron are the Rockets, the Bulls, the Spurs, and Miami.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of teams have interest in De'Aaron. So that makes me think, like, what if one of those teams were to just throw out some crazy offers right now to try and beat out San Antonio?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's always possible. I would think they'd be hesitant because of how good this draft class is, how deep it is. I think a lot of teams want to hold on to their picks. So that's why I think, I think everyone knows, and our front office knows, that we'd get a better offer in the offseason once teams kind of see how their season plays out, once they know their draft position as well. Because I think a lot of teams are going to be tanking for, obviously, Cooper Flagg, but just how deep this year's draft is. It makes teams a little bit more hesitant to give up all their assets, I think.
Where do you think Monte McNair should shift his focus to for this trade deadline?
John Collins.
Yeah.
For sure. John Collins should be number one on his radar. I don't think we should trade Fox, quite frankly, at all. But if we were to have those discussions, I think offseason is the time to have it. I think we just need wing depth. We need some guys that can come off our bench and give us a paint presence, knock down the three ball. I think John Collins hits every box that we need. Obviously, he's a rim runner. He can play fast. He's having a great season in Utah. And I think if anything, these Fox rumors add a little bit more urgency to get some help, right? So if Monty needs to give up a first or a protected first for Collins, along with Herter and Lyles, I think that's the move we need to make, because winning cures all. So obviously Fox is frustrated right now, or at least his agency is frustrated. But if we start winning games, we make a deep playoff push, deeper than the one the Beam team had a couple years ago. I think a lot of the noise, kind of like with Mike Brown, right, when he got fired, kind of the turmoil that came, and then once we went on that winning streak, you don't hear it as much, right? But I think this adds pressure to the front office to be even more in win now mode and kind of quiet the noise around Fox, because it's just negative noise around the team and around the chemistry.
So if the Kings go into win now mode, which obviously we hope that's what we do, mm-hmm. that would obviously quiet the De'Aaron noise as of now.
Yeah.
But going forward, what do you think will solidify De'Aaron to sign an extension with the Sacramento Kings in 2026?
I think if we win a playoff series.
Just one?
Just one. I think if we win a playoff series and show that we can be better than that Beam team era, I think that's what he wants to see. He wants to see growth. I think not making the play-in or getting bounced in the play-in would be detrimental to him wanting to stay here. I think he's a for sure goner if our team is basically the same as last year. I think if we win a playoff series, which our team is definitely capable of, especially if we add another piece, I think that'll quiet the noise, because we got to remember De'Aaron's never won a playoff series in his career.
Assume you're talking about this season.
This
correct?
season, yeah, for sure.
So,
for sure. And I think that's what his agency wants too.
Yeah,
they want him in the spotlight as much as possible. And we're very much capable of winning a playoff series this year, especially if we make a couple minor moves. So, no pun intended.
Yeah, so like if De'Aaron and the Sacramento Kings win a playoff series this season, mm-hmm. say we get bounced out in the second round, mm-hmm. do you think that offseason is when you make the decision to trade Fox, or do you say we try everything to pitch to him, hey, let's give it one more go, let's see if we could go further, we can make another tweak just to help De'Aaron's case to stay.
Yeah.
And then say we win in the next season, we go into the Western Conference Finals, just, hypothetically speaking.
Yeah.
Then I think that's when De'Aaron will, that's what it would take. I think it would take one playoff round win this season, two next season.
Yeah.
I think that's what it would take.
For sure.
And obviously that goes back to the current roster construction, because that hope in our head is not going to happen.
Yeah. I think
the only way it happens if we finally make the tweaks, because Monte McNair and free agency in the past two seasons, I know we've talked about this off camera many times, but what has he done at the trade deadline? I said free agency, but what has he done at the trade deadline the past two seasons that really made the Kings better going into the playoffs?
For sure.
Kessler Edwards, that was our biggest trade deadline move, and then the Robin Lopez cash considerations.
Yeah.
This is such an important time,
right,
more than ever.
Which is
specific trade deadline, because it made sense to stand pat the first year. The next season, the Robin Lopez thing was quite a shock to everyone. Mm-hmm. this is the year where you have to make a splash because with what's going on, I think the focus is doing everything you can to keep De'Aaron here.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if we don't win a playoff series this year, De'Aaron Fox is gone. For sure, without a doubt.
Sure, you have to. I mean, because you've let him down,
right? For sure,
and you have to.
I think as fans, we would understand that. But I think that's the silver lining of this whole thing is it adds more pressure to the front office to Monte McNair to win now. Don't make these little small moves for two-way players or bench guys. Don't get anyone off the buyout market. Give up your picks that we all have, right? We have our first-round picks. We own, all of our first-round picks. Make a move now. And I think that's the silver lining of everything is it adds more pressure to Monte McNair to make those. I mean, we saw it with Dallas last year. They made it all the way to the finals with some trade deadline moves, getting P.J. Washington, getting Gafford. There's moves that you can make at the trade deadline that takes you from a good team to a great team. And hopefully this wakes up Monte McNair and Wes Wilcox to make those moves.
I'm really hoping that them allowing this information to get out was, smoke screens for what will happen with the current roster. That's the hope right now.
That's the hope, for sure.
Because we all know as Kings fans what this team is capable of doing. We're just a couple pieces away from actually making a push. We're not talking championship here. We're talking about a playoff berth, hopefully first round win. That's what we're talking about.
The West is wide open. So it'll take a couple moves that work out in our favor for us to be a very good team and to advance in the playoffs, I think.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I mean, who would have thought that this was the news we were gonna get? We were joking about right before recording. I think this is the karma we get for not recording after the Kings versus Brooklyn Nets game, and then here we go.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. The Kings will hopefully figure this thing out.
It's going to be a fun next 2 weeks. We're going to be refreshing X, checking socials every day till February 6th. Not only just for a Fox trade, but hopefully, fingers crossed, for a John Collins move or something similar. So it's going to be an interesting next 2 weeks in the NBA.
I saw something very funny on X today. Someone said, "There's no way we're trading Fox before we trade Herter."
Dude, there's no way.
I know.
There's no way.
I think, closing remarks on the De'Aaron Fox situation is, like Johnny just said, I think it just opens the eyes to how important it is for this fan base, for this franchise, to do everything you possibly can for De'Aaron Fox.
Yep.
And I think now we're going to be hearing all of these offers. Maybe we counter. Maybe we say, okay, I know what you're willing to give up for De'Aaron. Mm-hmm. But what if we throw in... we keep De'Aaron here. We revisit that. But, maybe we throw in a Herter and Lyles situation.
Right.
As much as we love Lyles, I think he would be... a trade piece, a trade asset.
Yeah, tradable contract for sure.
And then those first round picks, I mean, another thought that I have is if we trade a first round pick or two, however many first round picks we trade during this trade deadline, if it doesn't work and you have to trade De'Aaron, you're going to get a ton back.
Right.
So that, you're going to get him back somehow. So
right. Now is not the time to trade him. It's just not.
De'Aaron,
it's
we
not
love
only
you.
for De'Aaron, but it's to mess up the team chemistry for this season. I think it wouldn't work out in our favor. I think it would just cause too much of a turmoil in the locker room.
1,000%.
Too many
and that's
guys
the last thing we need right now.
Fans aside, too many people in that locker room love De'Aaron. They love playing with him, and he's Sacramento in a nutshell. So we can't do it right now.
No, yeah, we love De'Aaron. I bet you tomorrow's game, De'Aaron's gonna drop. He finally got out of the slump. Scores 30 against the Nets.
If this isn't a wake up call, I don't know what is.
He's going for a 35-40 piece against. He's going up against Tyrese Maxey. He wants to be known as the better, faster player
for sure.
He's gonna drop 35-40.
That's your prediction?
That's my prediction.
All right.
I love De'Aaron so much. That guy means so much to the city. I mean, we owe so much to him as a fan base.
Yep.
And we will continue. If he were to get traded in the near future or in the future at all, Kings fans are going to be rooting for him wherever he goes. We'll be tuning in on League Pass just to watch him play. We'll be drafting him first rounds in fantasy teams. We'll do everything we can to support the man. But with his time in Sacramento and moving forward, we just hope that the front office builds around him and they keep pushing forward, because that's what you need to do right now.
Yeah.
And
let's focus on this season.
Winning
cures all. Let the smoke clear out. let's make a playoff run, dude.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it. Let's make some minor moves, no pun intended, and let's make a playoff run and quiet the noise.
Let us know what you think about this entire situation. Do you want to trade Fox? Do you want to keep Fox? Let us know in the comments. We will be reading and responding to every single one.
We'll be monitoring the situation closely.
Yes, we will be doing emergency podcasts if needed during the free agency. We might go live during on trade deadline day. Who knows? We have a lot in store because we love this team more than anything, and all we want is to see purple skies. And thank you so much for watching. De'Aaron, we know you're watching. We love you. We need you in the city. You will never have to pay for a Banzitos taco ever again. The KGP boys got you for life.
For life.
Thank you so much for watching. De'Aaron, we love you.
Stay. Please stay.
Stay with me. De'Aaron is all we need.